From one sports fan to another, hello, how are we doing? Welcome to episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That one deserves a full count. So, episode 10, feels like I just recorded episode 1, already at 10, which is awesome. Thank you to everybody who's listened so far, given feedback, given just words of encouragement, words of, critique. I'll take everything, so I appreciate all of it. It's been fun growing this thing, as you can see, for episode 10. Hat off, glasses on. I've been starting a new job recently, so, just got home from work. So if you're listening to this on Friday, I'm recording this on Thursday, so we're going to get started on today. Just a couple of things I wanted to go over. So for about first 3 to 5 minutes, we're going to talk, just the general housekeeping stuff, kind of state of the show, where things are headed the next couple months, and then I'll kind of move into what I actually wanted to talk about today, which is mainly just going to be some NFL stuff, just kind of some general things. So just state of the show purposes, obviously, kind of working with what we've got in the sports world right now. Knicks did end up making the finals, swept the Cavs the other night. I'm recording this on Thursday. Game 6 of Thunder Spurs is tonight. It's in 3 hours. Looking forward to watching that. I'm going to do a full NBA podcast on Tuesday. The episode that releases on Tuesday, episode 11, will be all NBA. So, playoff review up to this point, go back over the conference finals and even previous rounds, talk about the upcoming NBA finals at that point, preview that, and just kind of a state of the league in general. So I was just going to save all the basketball stuff for one episode because I know some people really like the basketball stuff, some people really don't. So if that's your thing, listen to it. If you don't like it, that's not your thing, you can skip that episode. As you've kind of noticed by now, if you've been listening to a couple episodes, I really have 4 sports I talk about: baseball, football, golf, and basketball. Those are kind of the 4 I like, the 4 I grow up. Golf, not as much. I didn't really grow up with it, but I've really gotten into it over the past several years. And they're the 4 sports that I can just talk about easily, and I actually follow and pay attention to. Like, I'm a Red Raider alum, and, Tech till the day I die, and, Tech softball won today in the College World Series. Great, but, I don't really watch any of their games unless you get late into the College World Series, so it's not my forte. I'm not the expert. I'm not to say I'm necessarily an expert on any of it, but I at least know what I'm talking about with the other stuff, unlike that, so I'm not going to discuss that as much. Outside of that, we'll just kind of be chugging along through the summer. Obviously, we'll have a couple golf majors, a couple other stuff. Probably revisit baseball here soon since it's been a minute, and they've played a couple more games. This fall, once football season starts, I'll do 1 college episode and 1 pro episode a week. Might change the days that those release. That might be subject to change. But, that might be subject to change, but I'll do at least 1 college, 1 pro episode a week, and then I'll probably sprinkle in a 3rd episode a week, because baseball playoffs specifically, and then if there's anything else major in any other sports, but just to have that as well. And then I did get asked about this the other day, yesterday, Brendan Sorsby, from when I'm recording this, it was on Wednesday, that Brendan Sorsby's request was denied by the NCAA. His court hearing's on June 1st, which is next Tuesday. I will talk about Sorsby a week from Friday, so not this episode, but a week from when this episode drops, so episode 12. We will talk everything Brendan Sorsby. I'm going to wait until the court hearing actually takes place before we fully dive into that, because I feel like it'll only be right to address it once that actually happens. So about 5 minutes in, perfect timing. We're going to go ahead and move on to some NFL stuff. There's nothing really major I wanted to talk about, no major stories or anything, but we're just going to kind of dive into it and see where we go. So I'm going to start here, and this is not just because I'm a Bears fan, but I do want to talk about the NFC North just overall, because I feel like there's been a lot coming out the past couple days about a lot of different stuff in that division, more so than the other ones. So I'm just going to start there. The big one being Josh Jacobs got arrested for strangling his girlfriend, among other charges, which, you know, an NFL player got arrested for, strangling. Shocker. I know this stuff happens like all the time, and we become numb to it, unfortunately, because these guys just do it. I will say this as a Bears fan: I am sorry for the woman. However, if this actively makes the Packers worse, I'm not exactly complaining. I feel like thanking her for taking one for the team might be a step too far, but it won't be terrible not having to deal with him. And then if you look at the fact that, Micah Parsons it might not be 100% week one. Jordan Love, do we know for sure if he's the guy in Green Bay? Not necessarily. I know I just sound like a Bears fan. I know it's right there, if I can point correctly, and then I've got the Packers turned upside down next to it. But, yeah, I am not buying any Green Bay stock right now. I mean, you look at the playoff game. You look at the lead that they collapsed against Chicago. They collapsed against Chicago twice this year, in the regular season and the postseason. They had an 18-point halftime lead, and they completely blew it. And you look at them, being sellers this offseason because of a locker room dynamics, supposedly. Like, LaFleur just came out and said it. The locker room dynamics were off. That's not a winning football team. You're not a winning team. I'm sorry, but when you just have... We're getting to the point now in the football where, we're a publicly owned team. Oh, we've got shareholders. Good for you. But guess what? You have no central head. You have no central figure. I know you got a team president and all that stuff calling the shot. I don't care. You don't have one single unifying force. You don't have a culture because everything's so spread out. So you're not creating a winning environment. It's not working. The rest of the league has caught up to you. You were able to have your fun time with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. You got your Super Bowls out of it. You had your coach back in the day who set the tone. That's fine. But that's not how the business of football works anymore. You have to have the central head. You have to have the central figures that set the tone. The Packers do not have anybody doing that. Where does the Bucs start and end with the Packers? I couldn't tell you. Because you could say it's LaFleur, but I disagree. Because LaFleur clearly is just, managing things. He had to submit a lot to Rodgers back in the day when he was first hired on, and he never actually had the wherewithal to take the reins once Rodgers left and control everything. Because the Packers, throughout Jordan Love's starting career, they've only won one playoff game. They've never won the division. Caleb Williams has more division titles than Jordan Love does. Like, let's just be honest here. That's just the way it is. And so you're looking at this, historic franchise that is very quickly losing its leeway. I mean, the last 3 times they've made the playoffs, it was at the 7th seed, what was just created like 5 or 6 years ago. 10 years ago, if they were having the seasons they've been having, they would not be making the playoffs. They would be in like a 5-year postseason drought. This is not a winning team. This is not a winning culture. And you can say, oh, well, they got injured. Micah got injured. A team does not get that badly just because one player gets injured. If you're truly a good team, one injury does not derail you like that. It just doesn't. And you look at a lot of the other teams in their own division. I mean, you look around the league, because a lot of teams, you have either the coach or the GM that sets the tone, sets the culture, sets the bar. You look at the Packers' own division, you have Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell setting the bar for their teams. The culture and the way things are run starts and ends with them. And if you want to go on the GM side of it, you have Howie Roseman in Philadelphia is the perfect example. That organization starts and ends with him. He runs that thing. And now sometimes, you have a GM and coach that are just in lockstep. You got Reed and Veach. You got, Snyder and McDonald. Like, you have these examples of where they are just, they are locked in. But oftentimes, the one or the other is the one calling the shots. And if you don't have either, you're not really sure who it is, then that's when you have issues. And that's when it just doesn't work. And, look at the Broncos. Sean Payton's very clearly running the show there. And because of that, they've gotten better as a result. He has a lot of juice in that building. McVay with the Rams. Kyle has a lot of juice in the Niners room, but it's very clear that, when it comes to draft picks, John Lynch is calling the shots. When it comes to building the roster, John Lynch is the one, especially after the Trey Lance fiasco, John Lynch is the one going, I'm making these decisions. It's very clear. And so, going back to the Packers, it's just what are we doing? Who's in charge here? Nobody. And so it's a complete free-for-all. They have no culture, and I think they missed the playoffs this year. They might go 9-8 and miss the playoffs, but they're missing the playoffs this year. I do not think they're going to be good at all. Everybody was saying they were going to be a Super Bowl contender 4 weeks into the season last year. I never once thought they were going to be anywhere near the Super Bowl. It just wasn't going to happen. But yeah, I know I'm the most biased person in the world to be having this take, but if you just look at it, honestly look at it and ask yourself, do you think Jordan Love is a top 10 quarterback? Maybe he's 10. Maybe. Even then, they're depending on how Kyler looks this year with the Vikings, there is an argument to be made by in a year from now, we could be oh, Jordan Love is the worst quarterback in his division. Jordan Love, within the next 2 years, will be thought of as the worst quarterback in his division. I'm that 100%. He can't keep doing the boneheaded mistakes that he's been doing the past couple of years, especially as the talent around him just continues to get worse, and expect to improve in people's eyes. It's just not going to happen. I did talk about Kyler, though, and this dropped today. This was pretty funny. They asked both Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy about, working together, about, being in the same locker room, being in the same team meetings, same positional meetings, learning from each other. Kyler's kind of in a mentor role. And Kyler gave, the basic, media-trained answer of, hey, it's been great having him around. I hope I'm able to teach him some things. I just finished year 7. I'm going into year 8. I'm a veteran now, even though I don't see myself that way. Very just classy, hey, I understand my role. We're getting along great. Things are fine. Not throwing, throwing juice on that fire. JJ gave a very different answer. He's yeah, we're just in the same room together. And he basically gave the impression of, yeah, we don't talk to each other. We're just in the same room together, and we're trying to beat each other out for the job, so it doesn't really matter. Dude, why would you say that? And everybody's clowning him for it, and they should be, because why would you say that? Especially because if you're trying to compete for the starting quarterback job of the National Football League, everybody's opinion on you is already not that great because of what you've done on the field. The last thing you need to be doing is saying bad crap off of it. This feels like an Anthony Richardson situation. I know, the college careers aren't comparable really at all, but in terms of NFL, we've seen this a million times. They have bad play on the field. They show flashes, but overall just very negative. And you're maybe there's something there, but then they start saying wild crap off the field, and it's what are we supposed to do at that point? You can't do anything with the player. Because if you're going to cause a problem, you have to earn it through your talent. Like, they'll put up with you if you're a problem because of your talent. Look at Jalen Carter in the Eagles as a great example. He might not get the biggest contract, but they'll put up with his BS if he's actually producing. J.J. McCarthy, you can't be saying stuff like that to the media and then also not be a guaranteed starter. Like, guys, these GMs don't have the patience for it. I mean, my patience is done on J.J. McCarthy after that. I mean, everybody already kind of knew he's not very good. He's very much headed into bust territory, but especially now, no. You just can't be saying that type of stuff. You cannot be doing that. It's unfortunate, but sorry, bro. I think that national championship in Michigan's probably as good as it's going to get for you. I don't think if he does get the starting job again, if he ever starts again, it's going to be as a bridge quarterback, or he's going to be in some sort of quarterback competition. I do not think he starts this year. I straight up do not think, unless Kyler gets injured, I don't think he starts this year, because the Vikings have a very good roster. They clearly think they have something there with Kevin O'Connell, but Kevin O'Connell is on a shorter and shorter leash. And they very much feel like they have to capitalize on the talent that's not in the quarterback room. And so the best man's going to play, and it's not going to be JJ. It's just not. So, moving on to the Bears, I saw something today. Ben Johnson is buying Luther Burden stock. He said that in his press conference. I love that. Luther Burden had flashes last year. He had a couple of deep shot touchdowns. He had one against Dallas. He had one against San Francisco on Sunday Night Football. He's shown a lot of flashes, and he was kind of banged up last year OTAs and stuff. He kind of missed some of the training camps and everything because he was dealing with some injuries, which as a rookie is kind of damning. But this year, I mean, Ben said it today in his press conference how well Luther has approached the offseason, how well he's approached minicamp, OTAs, all this stuff. Like, he's been doing it really well, and it's proving results. So, which is awesome because, with DJ Moore going to the Bills, every wide receiver on the roster is going to kind of take a step up. You got Rome moving up, Luther moving up. Jade Walker apparently is capitalizing off that game-time touchdown he had against Green Bay in the regular season and is kind of moving up his progression as well. Because you got to remember, we had a lot of really good rookies last year. The Bears did. They had, especially on offense, you had Luther Burden, Kyle Monunga, and Colston Loveland. Those are just three, and all three of them had great years. Colston Loveland, by the time the playoffs rolled around, he was Caleb's number one target. And all three of those guys are just going to get better in the offseason. I mean, Colston Loveland's going to be a top 5 tight end by the end of this season. Undisputably. He's going to be a top 5 tight end in the league by the end of this season. And I'm here for it. He is going to be. I think he's the next Travis Kelce. I think he's more of a George Kittle type of player, but in terms of next great tight end, I think he's gonna be. And I definitely think he's more of a Kittle. He's a better blocker than people give him credit for, but he'll have those games where, when he needs to, if we need to stand him up in the slot or something, and he can get you 8 to 10 receptions, 120 yards, won't be an every week thing. And he might have, 1 or 2 weeks where he only gets 2 or 3 targets because, focusing on the ground attack, just having him as an extra blocker, but he's going to be an all-time great tight end. I truly believe that. So I'm excited to see where his career goes. And obviously Caleb, only going to get better. Kaz already only been getting better. The reports coming out of OTAs say he is slinging it around that field. And so it's exciting. I get to go to my first Bears game at Soldier Field this fall. Get to see it for myself. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I guess I don't have a ton to say about the Lions, but I talked about the other three teams, so I feel like I kind of have to talk about the Lions. I don't want to leave them out. Lions are pretty whatever. They traded David Montgomery to the Texans. They've made a couple of moves here and there. They're still going to be good. Obviously, that locker room is pissed about how last season went. You got a lot of... Dan Campbell's obviously a high-level guy, high-level coach. They got new, hopefully better coordinators in the building. And then, of course, you just look at that core they got on both sides of the ball. Obviously, the secondaries, they still got some holes defensively, but, Aiden Hutchinson's one of the best pass rushers in the league, one of the best defensive players in the league. He's going to be just as good this year. You got, Goff, Amon-Ra, Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Laporte is going to have a bounce-back year. He had kind of a down year last year relative to his rookie year, so I think in a new system that utilizes him more, he'll have a bit of a bounce-back year and look a lot better, look a lot more of what we initially saw when he first came out. And so I expect that division to be the best division in football, the NFC North. I know the NFC, because all four teams finished above 500 last year. The Vikings and the Lions both missed the playoffs, but they were both 9-8. They both finished above 500, and that was despite both teams going through heavy injury issues. A lot of those teams went through heavy injuries and heavy issues, but all the teams finished above 500. The only reason only one team got a playoff win is because the Bears had to play the Packers in the playoffs, and the Bears beat them. So, that's going to be the best division in football. It's going to be the toughest division in football. At least two, if not three teams from that division are going to make the playoffs. It's pretty obvious. So, and I say that with full confidence because either Seattle or I think Seattle's in danger of missing the playoffs. That's what I want to talk about next this year. I know they're young. I know they're good. They lost Kobe Bryant to the Bears. They lost a couple people. And they're going to have to replace Clint Kubiak as the OC because he's the head coach of the Raiders. I do think the Super Bowl hangover is going to hit them harder than people expect. And I'm not saying they're going to be bad. They're obviously going to be good. But I would not be surprised they lose opening night to the Patriots. They maybe drop a game to somebody like the Chiefs. Maybe not. I don't really know how good the Chiefs are going to be, but drop a couple divisional games. You play the Rams twice, you play the Niners twice. Drop some of those games. You could see the losses start to count up pretty quickly. I could see the Super Bowl hangover kind of hitting them a little bit. And I'm not saying that in terms of they're going to be terrible. No, but the NFC is really good. You look at the NFC, you've got three teams in the NFC West that are clear playoff contenders. Three in the North. I wouldn't really count the Vikings, but even the Vikings. So you're looking at, that's 7 of 8 teams, and then, you're going to have the division winner from the East, division winner from the South. I think the only wildcard teams are going to be from the West and the North. Because the East, that division is so wonky right now. And that division is weird. Because you have the Commanders, and they got so many guys coming off injury, and, what are they going to look like? Who really knows? The Cowboys and the Eagles are going to kind of be, jostling for, position. I think I've already said it. I think Philly's going to take a major step back this year, even more than last year. The Giants with Harbaugh. I know people probably want me to talk about Jackson Dart, introducing Trump. I'm not talking sports and politics on this show. I'm just not doing it. I'm staying away from it. So, just not discussing it. Sorry if you wanted to hear me talk about that, but I'm just not going to because I want the show to be for everybody, and I don't want to get into stuff like that. But with the Giants, it's just kind of all wonky and weird. Who really knows what's going to happen there? We'll see, though. It'll be interesting. Then the AFC. Talked about the NFC this whole time. But there's really a lot more to talk about in the NFC because there's a lot more interesting teams. AFC, I'm going to save a lot of AFC stuff for another day because about on pace here for time-wise. I'll save AFC update for another day when I don't really have much else to talk about because I'm sure that day will come, and that's just kind of one I can throw in my back pocket. So that was just kind of some thoughts on the NFC. Thank you for listening to episode 10. We got more actual planned content coming, so we'll get to that very soon. Appreciate everybody listening. Have a great rest of your day.